Welcome and thank you for joining us for this virtual opening in the Center for Photographs. I'm Virginia Heckert, a curator in the Department of Photographs at the J. Paul Getty Museum, and I'm pleased to introduce two exhibitions, Mario Giacomelli, Figure Ground, and The Expanded Landscape. Mario Giacomelli, Figure Ground, presents nearly 5 decades of work by this self-taught photographer who lived his entire life in Senigallia, a seaside town in Italy's Marche region. Often gritty and raw, Giacomelli's high-contrast black and white depictions of the people and places of his homeland are intensely personal. The exhibition features 91 photographs that span his career, with an emphasis on humanistic portrayals of figures in their immediate environment and dramatic abstractions of the landscape. The Expanded Landscape features 20 large-scale works by contemporary artists. Like Giacomelli, these artists favor graphically abstract compositions, unusual vantage points, experimental techniques, or a personal relationship with a specific place. And like Giacomelli, they expand our understanding of what landscape photography can be. Together, the two exhibitions create a conversation across generations of artists. All of the works are derived from the Getty Museum's permanent collection. Many of them entered the collection as donations. In fact, all of the Giacomelli photographs were donated by Daniel Greenberg and Susan Steinhauser. These LA-based collectors discovered his work 20 years ago. The exhibition is not intended as a definitive retrospective, but as an overview of the photographer's life through their vision as collectors. 2 portfolios, La Gente, People, and Passaggio, Landscape, form the basis of their collection. Their continued interest of the evolving intersection of these 2 genres, or more specifically, people in the landscape, form the subtitle of the exhibition, Figure Ground. Sadly, Dan Greenberg passed away in February of 2021. The exhibition and related publication are dedicated to his memory. Mario Giacomelli Figure Ground is organized chronologically and by genre. The first gallery features early figure studies, the second, figures in their environment, the third, early landscapes, and the fourth and final gallery, later landscapes and figure ground studies. Giacomelli was born into poverty in Senigallia in 1925. He lost his father at age 9 and ended his schooling at age 13 to apprentice as a typesetter and printer. He began painting and writing poetry as a boy and took up photography in 1950, the same year he opened his own print shop. Though he was self-taught in all of his creative endeavors, photography created a sense of continuity throughout Giacomelli's life. He gained international acclaim as one of Italy's most prominent photographers, despite having made the majority of his images in his hometown of Senigallia and the surrounding Marche region. The first body of work that Giacomelli exhibited as a series is Hospice. It depicts residence in the home for the elderly where his mother worked as a laundress, and which he had often visited as a boy. He began the series in 1954 and continued working on it until 1983. He renamed the series Death Will Come and It Will Have Your Eyes, after a poem by the writer Cesare Pavese. These 3 prints underscore how deeply the experience of seeing people in physical and mental decline must have affected Giacomelli as a boy. He retained a fear of growing old throughout his life. Giacomelli enhanced the haunting realities of living out one's last days by using flash and printing on paper that was curled rather than flat. At times, he combined 2 negatives in one photograph. Engaging with the subject over a period of several decades and assigning new titles were common practices for Giacomelli, as was the repurposing of an image made for one series for inclusion in another. In the second gallery, we encounter 2 of Giacomelli's most iconic series. From 1957 to 59, Giacomelli made several trips to Scano, a town in the Apennine Mountains of central Italy, about 270 miles south of Senigallia. There he photographed men and women clad in dark garments against the stark white architecture. His high-contrast printing introduces an element of mystery, of foreboding even, as if the town is steeped in mourning. One photograph from the Scano series, arguably his most famous, places a boy in the center of the image. Giacomelli used flash to make the exposure and dodging and burning techniques in the darkroom to create a halo effect around the figure. Ignored by the surrounding townspeople, who appear lost in thought and oblivious of him, the boy seems to levitate. The series that Giacomelli first titled Pratini, then I Have No Hands That Caress My Face, also features the distinctive shapes of black-clad figures against a white background. In this case, however, the photographer captured young priests in the snow-covered or sun-drenched courtyard of the seminary. The mood is joyful as the young men run, throw snowballs, or engage in a game of Ring Around the Rosie during moments of leisure between their studies. This is an uncharacteristically lighthearted and particularly beloved body of work by Giacomelli. A different relationship occurs between figures and the landscape in the series The Good Earth. From 1964 to 66, Giacomelli followed a farming family as they went about their daily lives in the countryside surrounding Senigallia. He photographed them as they planted and harvested crops and tended to livestock. Moments of relaxation and renewal are interspersed with daily chores. Towering haystacks serve as the backdrop for work and play and the celebration of a young couple's wedding. The series draws our attention to the cyclical nature of life. Landscapes featured prominently in Giacomelli's work from the beginning. Flames in the Field from 1954 is the kind of image that he entered into competitions and for which he won recognition as one of Italy's most promising young photographers. It has a clear structure of foreground, plowed fields, middle ground, barren tree trunks and glowing wheat stalks, and background, a distant hill. The uniquely graphic characteristics of Giacomelli's style become apparent in his Metamorphosis of the Land series. For this image, he chose a vertical composition that eliminates the horizon. A lone tree is set against a patchwork of plowed fields that might be located on the same hill or on one in the distance. The photographs in this series address how modernized agricultural practices overtaxed the land and changed the landscape. Giacomelli's concern for the land is more pronounced in the series Awareness of Nature, dating from 1976 to 80. Made from a plane, probably a crop duster, the images show plowed fields that pulsate with rhythmic intensity. They are gritty and boldly abstract, resembling etchings more than photographs. At times, Giacomelli requested specific patterns to be plowed when the fields lay fallow. The triangle of white sky in the top left-hand corner of this image creates a dizzying effect, as if we are about to fall off the edge of the earth. Giacomelli scratched 4 trees into the emulsion of the negative to complete the composition. Altering negatives in the darkroom was a common practice for him. Giacomelli interspersed figures and landscapes with increasing frequency in his later work. He did so both within a series and in a single image. For this image from My Marche, Giacomelli used a slow shutter speed and moved his camera during the exposure to merge the silhouettes of figures with slivers of light bouncing off the sea. Often inspired by poems, Giacomelli's later photographs reflect his growing interest in the interconnection of space, time, and being. Giacomelli began to make self-portraits in the final years of his life. For the series titled I Would Like to Tell This Memory, he incorporated props, such as a mannequin and a stuffed dog and birds. We sense that he is coming to terms with the inevitability of his own mortality after a life well lived. Photography became the means by which Giacomelli expressed both himself and his deep connection to the landscape and the people that surrounded him. He did so with a unique vision that transformed ordinary subjects into meditations on time, memory, and existence. We hope that the exhibition and accompanying publication will introduce new audiences to his work. In addition to thanking Susan Steinhauser for the generous donations from her and her husband, we also wish to thank the Archivio Mario Giacomelli, in particular its director, Katiuscia Biondi Giacomelli. The expanded landscape brings together the work of contemporary artists who address many of the themes and approaches that are evident in Mario Giacomelli's practice. They similarly demonstrate an interest in the expressive graphic power of the landscape, in experimental approaches, or in a deeply personal relationship with a particular place. Working on a larger scale and availing themselves of modern technologies and materials, they push the medium in new directions. The exhibition is organized in 3 galleries. The landscapes in the first gallery emphasize unusual vantage points. Those in the second gallery feature bodies of water. Figures are prominent elements in the landscapes in the final gallery. Virginia Behan and Laura McPhee made this beautifully modulated image of a stream bed in the Palouse, an area of Washington State, with an 8 by 10-inch camera. It is part of a larger project that explores the impact of human interaction with the natural environment. By choosing to eliminate the horizon, the photographers introduced an element of abstraction. Although these 3 works from David Mazel's 2018 Desolation Desert series could be mistaken for abstract paintings, they are photographs of copper mines in the Atacama Desert in Chile, made from an airplane. For more than 3 decades, Mazel has used the beauty and abstraction lent by an aerial perspective to draw attention to our consumption of natural resources and transformation of the environment. After working for several decades with an 8 by 10-inch camera to photograph landscapes of the West, Richard Misrach turned to digital technologies. For this work, he reversed the colors in his digital file. Rock formations captured at low tide on the Oregon coast are transformed into a chilly scene of icebergs. Diego Shiga created this surreal scene for Razin Kagan. She began this 4-year project after moving to the coastal village of Kitakama in northern Japan. There she took on the role of resident photographer. She collaborated closely with the townspeople, encouraging them to explore their connectedness to the land. Poignantly, the village was devastated by the 2011 tsunami. The expanded landscape is accompanied by an audio guide in which 5 of the artists speak about their work. Please download the Getty Guide app to hear their insights. Mario Giacomelli, Figure Ground, is also accompanied by an audio guide with commentary by Katiuscia Biondi Giacomelli and several of the artists in the expanded landscape. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the 2 exhibitions.